Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do some event makeup, be it prom, be it formal, be it date night, be it you just want to get dressed up and hang out on your couch, whatever. This look was heavily inspired by one of my all-time favorite YouTubers, Blair Fowler. I'm going to link that video below, but I think this is a beautiful look. I love it. I know smoky eyes can be intimidating. This is not a throw it on makeup look and go. It takes some time. It takes some practice. Unless you just got it like that. Then can you give some of that to me? Because I still have to practice and I'm a professional. I had the pleasure of meeting Blair last year. She came into the Mac counter where I work. So she was super sweet. She took pictures with me and my friend Hannah and we talked, and she was just an absolute sweetheart to talk to. She's actually who inspired me to create my YouTube channel. So it's really exciting to film this tutorial and I hope you guys enjoy it. And if you want to see how I got my version of her look, then just keep watching. I've already applied my brows and primed my eyes using MAC's Painterly Paint Pots. I know I've done several halo eyes recently, but that's really what I'm going to do again today. It's kind of been my go-to look, but the one I'm going to do today is a lot more dramatic. Using the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette, I'm going to use this middle transition shade. And I'm going all the way to the inner corner because we're doing a halo eye. So remember, on a halo eye, it's no darker on the outer corner than it is in the inner corner. And we're making that like rainbow, half moon kind of shape. And before I move on to my darker shades, I'm going to take a silver cream shadow. This one is from the Makeup Forever Flash palette. Like, I don't like a liquid shadow. I definitely like a cream with it. Because I feel like the liquid shadows tend to go on a little more foiled. And the creams go on a little more like they hold a little bit more sparkle, if that makes sense. Now with this, I'm working just in thin layers in the center of my lid. And working in thin layers is super important because if you go all in at once and try to get the opaqueness just from the get-go, it's going to crease up and get really sloppy. Going back into that Shade and Light palette, I'm using the next darker in the cool tones. So this dark gray shadow. And the brush I'm using is a little smaller than the first one I used. So as my colors get darker, my brushes get smaller. I think that's a really important tip to remember when you're doing a smoky eye or a darker look. The darker your color, the smaller your brush should be. And I'm stamping this color onto that outer corner and bringing it through the crease and stamping it on the inner corner as well. My mother called and I decided to go ahead and finish my other eye while I was on the phone with her. I am still building up that mid-tone gray, and out here where that color meets the shadow shield, I'm building almost like a wing with the shadow. it's really soft. And if you have hooded eyes, you want to occasionally, like, I know a lot of times we'll look down into a mirror, up into a mirror, but if you have hooded eyes, you want to occasionally look straight ahead and make sure that this darker shade is actually coming above where your eyes are hooded. I have one eye that's more hooded than the other, so I have to do that quite a bit. I'm switching to a pencil brush and using the black shade in the palette. And I'm stamping that on that inner corner and bringing it to meet that silver shade. But when it meets the silver shade, I like to feather it back and forth. That way there's not a super harsh line. And I like to bring it over about where the iris starts. So about a third of the way. I like to think of the eye as divided into 3 parts. The first part is the white. The second part is the colored part, the iris. And the third part is this part of the white. So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. I'm taking that same black shade and stamping it on this outer corner and that wing shape that we're making. And I'm tracing out that half moon shape too around that silver. But because we already laid down that darker gray, it is blending a lot easier. That's why we're able to use such a dense brush to apply the black shade. If you didn't have that dark gray, it would be really, really difficult to blend this black shade. Like if you just went straight in with black, you could do it. But it's just gonna make your life a little more difficult. And I'm not about that. I'm about an easier makeup life. Going back to that smaller fluffy brush, I'm not putting anything else on it. I'm just going to go directly on top of the seams. So where the black meets the silver here, and here, and around the edge here, but then also where the black meets the transition shade, or that darker gray. On the bottom, and going back to that silver cream shadow, and I'm putting a tiny amount just directly in the center. In that like second, third area under the iris. And same pencil brush, I'm going to work in that darker gray and then that black under the lash line as well. But I'm not going to cover up that silver. The darker gray is going to go on that outer third and that inner third. And it can overlap this silver a little bit. That's fine. That's going to help that silver blend. But the black, I really just want a smidgen of it. Really just enough to blend it into that top lid. And then when we get to the inner corner, just enough to blend it to the dark on top. I'm taking an angled brush and the shade right above that dark gray to highlight the brow bone. Like always, I'm concentrating that on the highest part of my brow and then working it out. Just Going back to that very first fluffy brush and blending between the transition shade and the brow highlight. I'm going to use Reflex Pearl Glitter from MAC on a teeny tiny brush wet with some MAC Mixing Medium. If you have a glitter glue, that works too, but girl's allergic to latex, so most glitter glues don't work for me. But I really like the consistency of Mixing Medium. I'm pressing that right on top of the silver just to give it a little something extra. And between the mixing medium and that silver being a cream shadow instead of a powder, this glitter should stick fine. You shouldn't have many issues with fallout throughout the night. And I'm popping those on the center of the lower lash line as well, where we put that silver cream. They're one of the few glitters that are actually cosmetically approved for the eye, because if they fall in the eye, they're not as likely to scratch the eye as your larger, chunkier glitters. But that's just going to amp it up just ever so slightly. I love it. The camera never does justice to glitter. It breaks my heart because it's always so much prettier in person. For liner, I'm using Blacktrack Fluidline from MAC, and I'm keeping the liner thinner on the inner corner and thicker in the middle. I am going to skip a wing. That's totally preference. With the eye being as dark as it is on the outer corner, and I'm going to apply lashes as well. Those two in combination would hide any wing that I put. So it's just not something that I'm willing to put the time and the effort into, knowing that you're not going to see it anyway. But I know there are people who feel the need to rock a wing every day. Do you, sis? Rock it. That is the beauty of makeup, right? I'm using that same teeny tiny brush and the black from the palette, and I'm just going right on top of that just to make sure we don't get any transfer from the liner. And it does intensify it a little bit too, because they never told us at work that the formula changed, but I swear this is not the same formula as the Blacktrack that we used to have back in the day. Because that shit was intense. I am going to go and apply my mascara and false lashes off camera, and I will be back and we will finish the face. The lashes I applied were the House of Lashes Iconic Lashes. I'm going to throw a waterproof liner in the waterline. I forgot to do this before I put on my lashes, and I had done it on the other eye. You can do a white liner if you want the eye to be more open, but when I do a smoky eye, I like to commit and go full on like black liner. And I like to tight line too. When the eye is this heavy, you need a fuller coverage foundation. I'm going to use the Milani 2-in-1 foundation and concealer. My shade right now is 03 Light Beige. Well, as close to my shade as we can get. We know how I struggle. I like to blend that using a damp beauty sponge. I love this shade. Like, I like this foundation, but this is one of my favorite shades in the foundation. Does that sound crazy? Probably. It's fuller coverage. It doesn't break me out. It's super inexpensive. The shades run mostly neutral This one has a hint of gold. Like occasionally you'll find one that leans a little more gold and a little more pink, but they have a nice selection of neutral shades too. And I sincerely appreciate that. I love how crisp that line is under our eyes, and that's because I use the shadow shield. I don't always opt to use the shadow shield. A lot of times if I'm doing a more dramatic eye, I'll just tape off the eye, if anything. But because I was working with such dark shadows today, that's why I went for a shadow shield instead, because I didn't want the black fallout. And you want to be sure that if you have any fallout, clean it up before you apply your primer or your foundation or whatever product you're applying here first. Clean up that black fallout or that dark gray fallout first. Don't be lazy and think your foundation's going to cover it up, because it's not, and you're going to end up with those streaks, okay? And like always, I don't take that foundation all the way up under my eye, just to the highest point of my cheekbones. That way I don't have to worry about it settling and creasing and being too heavy under my eye. For my under eye concealer, I'm using the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. And I don't really have to clean up so much because that shadow shield already made that super crisp line. So I'm really just placing it where I want to highlight. I'm going to highlight on my jawline a little bit just to color adjust. Just a smidgen. I'm going to cream contour today with my ABH Cream Contour Kit. Go ahead and apply my spot concealer. I like to get that first concealer time to sit in and let those moisturizers absorb. That way I get a little better coverage. I feel like if I put my highlighting concealer on and my coverage concealer on and my cream contour on and then blend my face instead of doing them like step by step, one at a time, I just feel like I get such a better blend. Maybe that's all in my head. I don't know. I'm using my Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder to set my face. I really love this setting powder. I just wish the shade range was better, because it's garbage. And that sucks because it's such a good formula for such a great price. Okay, I'm taking one shade lighter in the same Fit Me powder and setting my under eye. I switched to a brush that was a little fluffier so it would diffuse the product a little more, because I don't want that under eye super heavy and cakey. I think it's super important anytime you contour to use a bronzer. I use a bronzer every day, whether I contour or not. It just adds life back to your skin, especially when you're using a full coverage foundation. You know, our faces aren't naturally one color. So when you mask them out with a fuller coverage foundation, it looks very unnatural. So you can actually make your makeup look more natural by adding a few more products. I know that sounds crazy. And I know bronzer is one of those products that scares people. Light hand, and you don't do it all over. Do it in your contour areas, under the cheekbones, around the hairline, on the ears, sides of the nose, and the neck. That's it. And regardless of what anyone says, it is very different than contour. No, you can't use the same products. No. For blush, I'm using Mocha by MAC. It's just a pretty soft, neutral pink. It's not too blue. If anything, it's a little more on that like dusty rose. Place your blush where you like it. If you like it on your apples, put it there all day. I like my blush by my hairline and then bring it down. That's just what works for me. I do a little blush on my apples, but I do the majority of it back by my hairline because I feel like it makes everything look very sun-kissed, very bronzed, and it also, I feel like, slims my face out a little bit and gives it a little bit of a lift. I just want a very small amount of highlight. I'm going to use Flexitarian by Colourpop. And you may notice a trend in my recent videos of using my finger. I call them my God-given brushes. Especially with these like cream to powder kind of products, nothing works better. And you can just be so precise about where you want it. When I'm highlighting with my finger, I like to have a placement finger and then a blending finger. So like my product's on this finger, so I'll place it with that one and then blend it with that one. When you highlight your nose, you don't want to go all the way down the bridge of your nose. Leave a little gap. So I did two here, left a gap, and then just a tiny amount on the tip of my nose. Priming my lips using Prep and Prime Lip from MAC. Make sure that is nice and even, but not too much. Because if you use too much, it will create a barrier instead of a primed lip. I think I went a whole month without using my favorite lip pencil. This is Whirl from MAC. And like always, I'm going to fill all the way in. Everything's going on super smooth because I laid on that primer. And this is super important because the lipstick I'm going to use is very, very, very fair. So I need a lip pencil that has a little bit of color to it. And I'm going on top of that lip pencil with the shade Matte-cademia by L'Oreal. This shade was all over my Pinterest for months. And so I finally tracked it down. And while it's very different in person, it's beautiful. It's exactly what I wanted for this look because there's so much going on the eyes. Because I feel like this is more event makeup, you need something on the lips. You can't just do a full-on like concealer lip. You need something there. And I think the combination of Whirl pencil with the Matte-cademia lipstick, I think this is the perfect just enough for pictures lip. But this is the completed look. I hope you guys like it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned a few things that maybe make a smoky eye a little less intimidating. Definitely recommendations. Don't try it first, like on the day of the event, whatever the event is. Prom, you know, formal, I don't know, date night, whatever. You want to practice this look beforehand, okay? So yes, tip 1, practice. Tip 2, don't take it so seriously. It's just makeup, right? If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you just want to chat, let me know down below, and I will see you in my next video.